This is Autoblog. For over 15 years, our team has covered the auto industry. You can find more of our content at autoblog.com. But here on the Autoblog show, each episode features our favorite videos of the hottest new cars from all over the world. This is what moves us. We're drivers, off-roaders, journalists, tech geeks, gamers, filmmakers, and adventurers. This is Autoblog. On this episode of the Autoblog show, out in the forestry trails of the Pacific Northwest, we pit two vastly different Toyota Tacomas on a road trip from Seattle, Washington, all the way to Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada. But first, an 800-mile road trip through the Nevada desert in the Jeep Gladiator.
It's been 28 years since Jeep built a pickup truck, but the Wrangler-based Gladiator is finally here. Jeep tossed us the keys in Sacramento, and from there we drove it over 800 miles through the Nevada desert all the way to Moab, Utah, to see how this truck handles in the 4x4 Mecca of North America. So we're driving 2020 Jeep Gladiator. This is Jeep's first pickup truck in quite a while, but it is not Jeep's first pickup truck. First truck that Jeep built was a wheelless pickup in '47. After a few years, they transitioned to the J10 series, which included the original Gladiator. Then they moved to a CJ-based Scrambler pickup truck, CJ8. After that, when Jeep was part of the AMC Renault Alliance, they designed a unibody pickup truck called the Comanche. That was the last pickup truck that Jeep made until now. And unlike the Comanche, this truck is related to the Wrangler. It's based on the JL Wrangler with a much extended wheelbase. It looks like a Wrangler inside, it looks like a Wrangler outside. And that's great because, you know, the Comanche's got a cult following, but it wasn't the same sort of truck as this. It didn't have off-roading pretenses in the same way that this truck does. All that history is a long way of saying it's really, really good to have a Jeep truck back, and it's really good that Jeep did it right. They based it heavily on the Wrangler. It's got off-road attitude. Now, to be clear, we are not in a Rubicon right now. We're in an Overland model. So it's road-oriented. It's got more road-friendly tires. It doesn't have the lockers or a lot of the other off-roading goodies that the Rubicon has, but it's still a Jeep. So, you know, even in kind of a road spec form, it can go places that, you know, some other pickups can't really go. This Gladiator, like all Gladiators available at launch, comes with a 3.6-liter Pentastar V6. FCA uses this in a lot of products. It's a trusted engine. In this application, it makes 285 horsepower and 260 foot-pound of torque. It's fine, it gets out of its own way. It is definitely not overpowered, and like our colleague Jeremy noted in the first drive review on Autoblog.com, check it out, it doesn't make a lot of power until you really rev it up. This is not the torquiest motor in the world, and it's not going to be the torquiest motor in the Gladiator. Eventually there'll be a turbo diesel, but the bottom line is, it's fine. In this spec, we've got 17-inch rims, and we're running 32-inch tires on them. They're Bridgestone Dueler HTs. They are not a particularly aggressive tire, but they are also fine for light off-roading. You don't want to rock crawl on them. You don't want to go through deep mud. It's not something that you, go hit obstacles at your ORV park in, but it'll get you to a campsite. They're good tires. And they're quiet on the road. In fact, the whole truck is quiet on the road. That's something that was surprising to us in general. Tire noise contributes a lot to the overall noise and fatigue level on the freeway and the Rubicon. So the fact that this is much quieter and calmer for long distances on the freeway is actually appreciated. Here's the other thing. A lot of Jeep owners swap wheels and tires almost immediately. I would propose that if you want to get an Overland model for some of the feature content, or you don't need the lockers or whatever, but you are going to think about getting harder core tires and wheels, hold on to these ones. Put them on if you're just doing a long road trip, because they're actually really nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a KO2 or a KM2, but they can be loud on the freeway. And there's something to be said for arriving at your destination refreshed and ready to go. Well, the Rubicon model gets the rock track system, the lockers, a little more aggressive four-wheel drive system. This has a still robust, still totally purposeful four-wheel drive system, the Command Track system. It's shift on the fly, and it has a real low range. It's a 2.72 to 1 crawl ratio. So we're on some bumpier stuff right now on this trail heading up to some switchbacks, but I want to talk for a minute about how nicely this Gladiator behaves on the road. I think that's really the key to this Overland model. We've already seen today that it can handle light to moderate off-road duties, even on these stock tires, pretty well, but it is shockingly comfortable and quiet on the freeway. Part of it's the long wheelbase, part of it's the tires cutting down on the road noise, part of it's the nice suspension. It's soft and cushy without being too roly-poly. We did something like 14 hours of driving yesterday. We went all the way from Sacramento to Moab, all in one day, pretty much in a straight shot. We rolled into town, and I mean, we were tired, don't get me wrong, that's a long day behind the wheel, but we were not nearly as wasted as we would have been had we been trying to do that in, say, a Rubicon with the off-road tires, extra road noise, harder sidewall. This truck has road manners that are just, frankly, kind of shocking.
The Gladiator doesn't do everything as well as other midsize pickups. The steering, while it's accurate, is a little bit loose, especially on the freeway. Speaking of freeway driving, a cross breeze, especially at higher speeds, say 80 miles an hour, will really blow the Gladiator around. Another drawback is the incredibly long wheelbase, and while that's a boon for ride quality, it's a liability off-road. The breakover angle is abysmal. It'd be easy to get the Gladiator hung up on things that the Wrangler could just clamber over. Perhaps the biggest drawback of the Gladiator is the price. This thing is not cheap. Including destination, the base Gladiator Sport has an MSRP of $35,000, and it'll cost you $2,000 to add an automatic. The Overland trim that we're driving starts at nearly $42,000, and the off-road ready Rubicon is a base price of over $45,000 and can be optioned all the way up to $60,000. That's a lot of cash for a midsize pickup, but to be fair, it's a lot of pickup for the price. The Gladiator can do things that none of the other midsize pickup trucks can do. While a stronger engine would be nice, I have no bones to pick with the Pentastar and the 8-speed automatic. They work very well together. That said, it's damn nice to be in a Jeep pickup again, especially one based on the rugged and capable Wrangler. I have no doubt whatsoever the Gladiator will be a success for Jeep.
Our jobs take us all over the world. In 2017, we flew down to New Zealand to take a look at the Ford Ranger before it once again graced our shores. Here's a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to shoot a truck review overseas.
Hi, Talberg.
Hey, how you doing?
How's it going?
Hey, girl.
This is how you survive a 12-hour flight to New Zealand. We're flying to LA, and then we're flying to Auckland, and then we're flying there to Queenstown.
And welcome to Queenstown, everyone.
Then we're not sleeping, because we're gonna get in a truck and drive through Skipper's Canyon.
Or maybe if you want to film one of the vehicles going down the road a bit or coming up the road.
Right now, we are driving through Skipper's Canyon. Good tour guide Simon and Graham are taking us through one of the most dangerous roads in New Zealand.
There's a reason we're here. It's that the Ranger is the best-selling vehicle in New Zealand. Also, it's beautiful. I think the beautiful part may have won out for Chris.
New Zealand's a place that I've always wanted to travel to and to film at, so I decided, hey, let's go shoot a Ford Ranger review.
When Chris asked me about coming to New Zealand, my first thought was, when do we start? Chris, tell us what happened.
Yeah, so we're at Macaulay Motors here in Queenstown, New Zealand, and the truck is on a truck. It has not arrived. It's supposed to arrive here Saturday. It is Tuesday. So we're just trying to get a hold of the trucking company to see where it's located. It could be 20 minutes out. It could be, you know, coming in here today at 8 p.m.
Have you guys been to Queenstown before?
No, it's all of our first time in the country, actually.
Oh, sweet.
So they found the Ranger. It's not going to get here till 2 p.m. So they dropped us off downtown Queenstown. We'll still have time to do everything we needed to today. And that's why we have an extra date baked into our schedule at the end of the week. So still hasn't worked out perfectly, but we're finding a way to make it work.
It says it's good lemony stuff.
Thoughts?
It's very mild.
Mild?
Yeah. It's not that carbonated.
No.
It's like half flat, lemony ginger ale. I think is a
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Just going to go park the truck up at the other end where I've got space.
So ours is the one without the white roof.
Right, so this is your bad boy here.
This is it.
After worrying that we had flown around the world for nothing, it was a relief to finally get in the truck. We had already eaten up the extra day we had planned just in case anything went wrong, so for the rest of the trip, we kept the cameras rolling as much as possible. It's rare that a shoot goes smoothly, especially one that takes place on the other side of the planet, so this wasn't completely out of the ordinary to us.
Today is our on-road day. We're driving down the Haast Highway down the coast to a glacier.
The drive to the coast was filled with dry lake beds, glacier-carved valleys, and one-lane bridges, most of which we stopped at to get shots as the truck drove over them, adding a few hours to the trip. The trek was made even longer when we realized that 2 of our GoPros, which had been suctioned to the Ranger, had fallen off as we drove alongside a cliff. After a few passes, we decided that our attempts to find them were pointless, took a moment to mourn our lost footage, and drove on. It was late, but we managed to arrive in Franz Josef just before nightfall.
We spent last night out by Franz Joseph Glacier, and we're getting ready for the second part of our road drive, heading back to Queenstown, another 400 kilometers back the same way we came, through the mountains.
Are you ready, Al?
I'm ready.
Cool. If Chris is ready, then we can leave.
Chris, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, these smell like absolutely nothing. They smell like chips. Sorry about that.
After spending the night alongside the glaciers and an unsuccessful stop at a nearby lake to search for penguins, it was time to head back to Queenstown. My favorite thing about cars is the places that they can take you. We spent 4 days driving past glaciers, through the mountains, and along the coast of the South Island. Sure, we were there to review a truck, but when you get out of the car and experience the alpine air, the expansive views, the mist of the ocean, and the star-filled skies, that is what made New Zealand unforgettable.
Autoblog is the complete source of breaking car news, in-depth reviews, exciting videos on all the hottest cars. If you're in the market for a new ride, shop our thousands of listings, or use our car finder to discover your perfect match. Visit Autoblog today.
Next up, Tacoma versus Tacoma. Past meets present with a pair of trucks traveling all the way from Seattle, Washington to Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada. This is a first-generation Toyota Tacoma versus a current-generation Tacoma TRD Pro.
I bought my Tacoma about a year ago with the intent of fixing it up, adding a few off-road bits, and taking it on some trails near my home in Seattle, Washington. After catching my truck up on some regular maintenance and replacing the front shocks, it's ready to hit some dirt. That's what brings us to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to be driving my 1998 Toyota Tacoma and this 2017 Tacoma TRD Pro. We'll be covering hundreds of miles of backcountry trails and mountain highways. Will the TRD Pro eclipse its predecessor, or will my first-gen truck hold its own? My truck is a 1998 Toyota Tacoma, a V6 4x4 extended cab. So that means it's got the 5 VCFE engine, which is 190 horsepower and 220 foot-pound of torque. So, you know, it's modest by modern standards, but, you know, it's enough to move this thing around. It has the 5-speed transmission, manual, and it's also got the ADD system. So the front hubs for the 4-wheel drive system, the front axle, automatically connect and disconnect, so I don't have to get out of the truck. The Tacoma TRD Pro has a 3.5-liter V6. It's got pretty healthy power output. It makes 278 horsepower and 265 foot-pound of torque. It'll tow 5,000 pounds, so, you know, a small boat, a small camper, sure.
but really what's at the heart of this truck are the Fox shocks. They work together with this truck's suspension beautifully. If there's a criticism that could be leveled at the Tacoma, it's that the tires are not very aggressive. These are Goodyear Wrangler Kevlar tires. It's a 16-inch wheel, and the tire size is 265/70 R16. I also think the seating position's a little high. I'm not a super tall guy, and I'm running a little short of headroom. That being said, the interior is incredibly comfortable. You could compare these seats to a nice office chair. They're supportive. I've done hundreds of miles in these seats without really feeling the need to get out and stretch just because my butt's getting sore. The other thing I like is the interior aesthetic. It's got kind of a macho, oversized, rugged thing going on without being cartoonish. If you think about the Tacoma TRD Pro's position in the marketplace, this truck has to be a lot of things to a lot of people. There aren't that many trucks of this size out there, and it's the highest trim level, so it's going to appeal to people that just simply want the best Tacoma around. That means it can't alienate folks that need on-road comfort. So I just hopped out of the newer Tacoma TRD Pro, and I got back in my truck. You know, when you go from one to the other, it's like jumping back 2 generations in time, almost 20 years. You notice the pillars are really thin. The whole greenhouse is lighter and airier, but you know, this truck's a lot more compact. It's intimate. These seats are not nearly as comfortable as the ones in the TRD Pro. You know, part of it is that it's a little worn out, but part of it's that, you know, a truck back in the day just wasn't as cushy. You also notice that the way it rides. I mean, truckish is definitely the word I would use to describe it. You kind of feel everything, and it's not like in a Miata where, you know, feeling the road, it sort of connects you with things. No, you're just kind of jostled and bounced around, and you can feel every wrinkle and imperfection in kind of not a very coddling way. If you want to know how this thing handles on the road, this is a nervous, skittish, kind of indirect beast. But overall, considering it's an older truck, it's a 4x4, it's a long wheelbase truck, it's got a lot of miles on it, I actually think it goes down the road pretty good. Whereas the TRD Pro is like riding on a mattress. I mean, the thing, without it rolling around like a land yacht, it manages to coddle its occupants in a way that this truck could only dream of. In 20 years, the Tacoma's changed a lot. What we wanted to figure out is, can the old truck hold its own against the new Tacoma TRD Pro? Now, after a lot of driving, we figured out the answer is definitely yes. The most important difference between these two trucks is that the new TRD Pro has benefited from increased refinement and comfort without sacrificing any of its inherent capabilities. So while the size may have changed, these are fundamentally both still Toyota Tacomas.
Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Autoblog Show. For a lot more of our content, check us out at autoblog.com, where you can find the latest reviews and news on all of your favorite cars.